the
Did you just
press
call John
conferences
and me
are.
soft?
No,
I'll
I'm
go hard.
definitely
I'll
not.
go harder
I,
if we are.
Uh, we're
I
getting old. We are softer, Joel.
you guys
Yes.
are not soft.
John, we have David Stearns, who runs baseball operations for the New York Mets today, and I think we have a lot to talk to him about.
Yeah, job by you to get him, and great job by him for coming on because when you asked him, I was a little bit nervous because they weren't doing so great. Now, last night, as we do this, they were fantastic. I was there. They killed the Phillies, the first place team, so it's looking better today. But I think they were on a little bit of a losing streak when you asked him, and good job because I got to tell you, not every GM is coming on when the team is doing poorly, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, the guy in Queens is coming on. David Stearns will join us. I'm sure we'll ask him about his young starters who are here and not here. Mark Vientos' rise. What's up with Francisco Alvarez? A lot more with him. John and I are going to dig into the guys in the Bronx, the Yankees, Anthony Volpe, the messaging of Aaron Boone. Are the Yankees tough enough? We'll play hit and error at the end if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. John, it was a bad weekend in the Bronx. Yankees not only lost three out of four to the Boston Red Sox, their historic rival, to go to 2-8 on the season against them. Pretty much they self-revived the Boston season by showing up on their schedule in mid-June and just starting to lose to them. But they did it in this clown car way they have of doing it. They looked bad in the field from literally the first inning of that series. At some point, the Yankees finally pulled the plug on that Anthony Volpe is an everyday player. He's sat at least 2 days. I think he's going to be back in the lineup. We're doing this on a Tuesday. On Tuesday, at the stadium against Washington, and of course, the first game against Washington, they do what they do. They beat up a bad team. Good teams up to town. They fold. Bad teams is how they build their record. John, go wherever you want. New York Yankees. What do you think about it right now?
Yeah, I think they're a great beer league softball team. They hit a ton of home runs. They beat up on the bad guys. I mean, they just hit the ball over the fence. That, as you pointed out a few weeks ago, that's the one thing they do great. I mean, their starting pitching is above average. They do a couple other things pretty well, but the one thing they do is hit the ball over the fence. Obviously, you've got Judge and Stanton, but the other guys all hit home runs too. Even Volpe hits home runs. Even the backup catcher now, backup Wells hits home runs. Rice and home runs. Grisham having his big home run year. Can you get to the World Series just hitting home runs? I mean, it's possible, right? I mean, they're in the weaker league. They are take care of business against these bad teams. They do have the best run differential in the American League. I mean, we're beating up on them. They're beating up on the Patsies. Can they do it? I mean, they can get there. I think it's possible, but it is certainly not pretty.
John, I'll continue to believe this. They can't get there because no second or third place team from the AL Central is going to be in the playoffs. I thought that the 2017, 2019, and 2022 Yankees were better than the 2024 Yankees. Yankees got an easy draw to the World Series and then showed us who they were. The Dodgers are a tough team. The Yankees played baseball badly and lost to them. Like if the season ended today, they'd have the worst of all worlds, which is they'd not only be playing the Red Sox, but they'd be playing the Red Sox in Fenway trying to win 3 games. I don't think the Red Sox are going to roll over and play dead for them the way that Kansas City and Cleveland did last year. So I think they have that problem. Like if they're not going to clean this up, and they haven't cleaned it up for quite a while, I just don't know how they win close games consistently.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. I mean, the bullpen has not been as good as the names on the paper either. So I grant you it's not going to be easy, but the Astros aren't the old Astros, right? I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it. They have a good 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation, although Framber Valdez hasn't been that good lately. But Houston's not a great team. I give them credit for being in playoff position at this point. I mean, Seattle, can we really think that they're going to be great? You think so, right? They have good names, they've got good pitching, but they have not been consistently good either. Boston, look, they've been beating up on the Yankees. They did that in 2009. That was the last time the Yankees won the World Series, as all their fans know. They won 8 in a row that year as well over the Yankees. They have a very young team. Yeah, do I think Boston's better than the Yankees? I do. But to me, the best five teams are still in the National League. I read other people's power rankings and I don't believe them. I think all the best teams are in the National League.
Yeah, John, you mentioned you quoted me, and I think I was wrong, which is I said the Yankees have one great skill, which is they hit the ball over the fence. I mean, they also are expert at throwing to the wrong base. I think they're best at that in the major leagues. They're best at not telling us the injury condition of their right fielder and if he's ever going to play right field again, Aaron Judge. And they were really, really expert this year of telling us that Anthony Volpe was elite on defense, that he was great up to the moment where they stopped playing him. Like I always like to ask, I asked this question in my column that just posted online on our Post Plus. I do a long column shows up every Tuesday morning. I'll leave it to Aaron Boone. Were you being disingenuous all year about Anthony Volpe? Or are you incompetent and don't know what a good baseball player looks like? It feels like I don't have another choice there. It's either disingenuous or incompetence. I'm okay. He could go either way here.
I've got another take on that. I get what you're saying. I mean, I think Aaron
Your
Boone.
other take is going to be disingenuous, where you're going to say that he does it because that's why he was hired, right? Is to give the sunshine. Well, that's disingenuous then.
Okay. Well, I think he is a fantastic PR guy. He is their PR
That's
guy.
disingenuous. Fantastic PR guys are
That's
disingenuous.
I guess so. It's not like our job, right, where we're trying to find out the truth.
Right.
Right. He's the PR guy, and he's great at it. He has a euphemism for everything. He makes everything seem sunny. It pleases the players. It pleases the front office. It pleases the owner, and he's great at it. Right. He's an all-American, very good-looking guy. Presents wonderfully in front of the camera. Speaks exquisitely, has wonderful words for everything. Obviously he knew that Volpe was struggling. He may have a greater feeling for Volpe than the fans do. I'm sure that he does. But in some ways, I would say I kind of get it with Volpe because he probably sees a young guy who's going to be potentially affected by the fans' opinions, and he's fighting against that. So I'm not sure that part of it is completely disingenuous. I think it's not the truth. It's a way to get to kind of level things off and bring it to the middle because the fans have been over the top on Volpe. I get it. You look at certain stats, he's near the bottom. If you got 1,500 at bats or something, he's last or whatever. Well, only stars have 1,500 at bats in that period. So I saw that stat. Obviously he hasn't been great. I mean, he does have good speed. He does steal bases. He does hit home runs,
Does
but
he?
just pick
Does he
on
steal bases? I'm missing that
uh,
part of his
not
program,
lately,
John.
not as many lately, but overall, if you look at his overall record, he does steal bases. He is fast. He does hit home runs for a shortstop.
John, can I ask a bigger question within this? I obviously understand this. I understand why Aaron Boone does what he does, and part of it is also they simply didn't have a backup shortstop. Cabrera got hurt early in the season. Peraza wasn't a major league player. They didn't have anybody like at quadruple A ready to do this. They finally traded for Caballero. I would make an argument the moment they traded for him, should have been playing shortstop a lot more regularly. It seemed to me that Volpe was lost on both sides of the ball. He looks like a butterfly goalie going down on both knees on ground balls. I don't know what that is. But my bigger question, John, is because I agree with you, is this is what Boone is doing. And it helps the Yankees in what way? To me, they're a mentally soft team. Like you could tell me, they tell me all the time. Aaron Judge stood in front of the Yankee logos that they stand in front of when they do post-game interviews now and talked about how tough-minded they are. Don't tell me it, show me it. Every time a good team shows up in town, you wilt. Like
Yeah.
from the first thing on, like that's not tough-minded. How has this helped Volpe? In what way has this treatment helped Anthony Volpe become a better player? He's regressed in every way. By the way, are the Yankees going to do a deep dive? He's regressed terribly. Wells has regressed terribly. Dominguez has. By the way, I've seen the movie before. Andujar did. Bird did. Sanchez did. Davy Garcia did. Like, I just like to know this is a organizational philosophy. I agree with you. The owner loves it, the GM loves it, etc. And it helps them in what way? Sell me that it's helping them.
Well, he's trying not to lose him psychologically. The fans are beating him
They
up.
lost them
Beyond
psychologically. The other team show up in town and have a psychological advantage. There's a contest going on every day. Prove you're mentally tougher than the other team.
Well, I mean, he may not think that Volpe is going to be able to handle it, and a lot of 24-year-olds cannot handle it. You know, I'm with you on the young guys, and in fact, I did a tweet about how the young guys all made mistakes in that one game. I think Volpe and Dominguez threw to the wrong bases, and Wells got caught off first, doubled off first when he shouldn't have. That was one that Boone actually criticized. He actually did not agree with that one. And people, the fans got upset because I said the young guys, and they started screaming back at me. If you can scream in Twitter, young guys, how young is he? He's 24 years old. Well, 24 years old is pretty young. I was at the Moline Daily Dispatch at 24 years old. Nobody was paying any attention to my high school coverage of the Rock Island Rocks. So, it's a tough position to be in, certainly. And I get it in the case of Volpe. Yeah, I do think they are. Boone is the guy who's there to give the great message, but the Yankees overall are not great at messaging. I mean, other than the fact that they build up these prospects, and I think they've been overbuilt too, many of them, right? Davy Garcia, was that his name? I mean,
Little Pedro?
yeah, right, little Pedro. Uh, you know, he didn't turn out to be really a major league pitcher, even.
Oh.
So he certainly wasn't Pedro Martinez. So a part of it is that they're probably overhyped, and that's done to a degree too. So it's all a lot of this is about the messaging.
But I'll deal with the messaging also. Like I get it. At 24, you were in Moline. At 24, I was just about to go from UPI to the Post. I get it. But John, we also played Little League. These are not young mistakes. These are Little League mistakes. You freeze on a line drive in front of you. My father coached me at 10 years old. If I didn't do that, he wouldn't talk to me on the way home.
Fundamentally, they're
Like,
terrible, and we've
like,
been writing
like
about this
throwing to the
forever.
wrong base. This is little like when you tell me Dominguez is a young player, I go, cool. He hasn't played a lot of baseball. Cool. How do you not know to throw the ball to second base and keep the double play in order with one out? You're not throwing Jaron Duran out at third base. You definitely didn't think about that play at all when you're catching the ball. Like that's little league. That's not 24. That's 10.
Now you sound like a fan. I don't know. I was there
That's
for
fine. Well, John,
it.
this is
Didn't
by
at
the
the
way, I watched
time.
the
It did
Phillies
not
play a
seem
little
that
league game.
outrageous. Had he been in 20 feet further, it would have had a better shot at it. Yeah, where he was, his chances were extremely low. I grant you
It's a
that.
hundred percent.
The
Do you keep the double play in
The
order?
Volpe play did seem ridiculous, where he threw to second, and Duran I think he was kind of smirking as he was getting back to second, and maybe he thought if he tried that, Chisholm might have still chance to throw the batter out at first, but of course Duran was at his arm, so he really wasn't able to get a good throw off. Yeah, I mean they're fundamentally bad. I mean, I wrote a column about this 2 months ago, quoting a scout before anyone was again talking. Obviously, we're talking about in the World Series, but he noticed that they do throw to the wrong base a lot. They're fundamentally not good, and that certainly is an issue. But you know, I mean, can they? I still think in the American League, you
Yeah, they
talked
might
about the
get
good
there. I'm
draw they
with you,
had last
John.
year, and of course, if they're in, they've eliminated Kansas City and Cleveland. So those two patsy teams, or at least playoff patsy teams for the Yankees, won't be in. But I don't see a juggernaut in the American League. So we may see this beer league softball team back in the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a 15, 20. I agree with you. I think that they could get through because they do hit homers, and boy, Schlittler looks good. He might be the best starter on the team. Let's flip to the Mets, John. The Phillies don't play baseball that great either. You know,
No,
they are
I
not a
was shocked. I mean, I
fundamentally.
hadn't seen them up close in quite a while.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
that
They
was
don't know how to do a rundown.
yeah. There was
I
a
mean, I
lot of
know
stuff like
if
Max Kepler couldn't play right field again for me the rest of the year. Like I couldn't watch that. Like catching every ball flat foot, having no clue what's going on, the rundown play. There was a lot of stuff yesterday. But why don't we concentrate just quickly on the other team? Look, maybe the Reds are a live wire between their starting pitcher and their Hall of Fame bound manager, but I believe the Mets are better than the Reds and are going to find a way to get in here. And they just, it's funny what makes you look like a different team. Mark Vientos hitting, especially they had such trouble righties against lefties this year, like big hits against guys like Christopher Sanchez. it just changes the look of the team. And if they could get Alvarez back, and I realize what an if that is, he's going back on rehab to try to play with this injured thumb. The lineup suddenly looks a lot longer and more capable.
Yeah, I mean the lineup's going to really have to produce for them, and that league, that is a tough league. I do think they are the sixth best team, so they should get in. Cincinnati is not a great team. I've watched them play too. Certainly, I watched the whole series against Milwaukee. Now they just fall apart against Milwaukee, but they don't play well fundamentally. They are a very young team. The fans aren't quite on them as much because it's Cincinnati. Everybody's all happy. It's a nice Midwestern town, but their fundamentals aren't great, even with a Hall of Fame manager. They do have great pitching. The Mets should not lose to the Reds. I mean, that would be a disgrace at this point with a $340 million payroll, a $765 million player, stars at least in the top 4 or 5 spots in that lineup. But they need to out-hit teams because they're starting pitching, while a little bit better lately, certainly since they brought up McLean, and I'm still hoping they bring up Tong, maybe Sproat as well. But they don't go a long distance, and the bullpen, other than the closer, who's outstanding, Diaz, has not proved to be that effective. They've had so many injuries in there. Now you've got Reed Garrett out, so they're gonna have to outslug teams. And look, they do beat the better teams a little better than the Yankees do. To me, they're more impressive. They're in a tougher league overall, but they got a gauntlet to get through, right? I mean, LA, San Diego, Philadelphia, while their fundamentals don't look great, at least to us right now, Milwaukee and the Cubs, to me, those are teams 1 through 5.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. It's a much tougher league. Look, just as a way to wrap it up, I obviously I read everything John writes. It's always excellent. You pointed out, I think, on a couple of occasions about Tong, that you would bring him up. Obviously, the success of McLean makes it almost an easier decision. Do you think the way to do this is to try to, forgive cliche, kill two birds with one stone? Would you put him in the rotation and put Clay Holmes in the bullpen? Holmes is a guy who, Holmes's postseason numbers especially are spectacular. He could do that. Like, what would Tong be brought up here as a sixth starter, do you think?
Yeah.
Would you bring him up as a kind of like maybe help the bullpen? Where do you see it?
Yeah, as long as Tong is the starter, I'm okay with it. If you want to make it a 6-man rotation or put Holmes in the bullpen, either one is fine. To me, Tong, 143 ERA, he's got like 175 strikeouts and 113 innings, something like that was an estimate, but it's incredible. I mean, he's leading the minors in strikeout percentage and strikeouts in all these categories. He just looks like a dynamo out there. I know he's, listed at 6'1". He's probably really 5'11 and a half or something like that, but I mean, the guy can pitch 96 to 97, occasionally up to 99. Great breaking pitches, great changeup. I mean, I think they need a proverbial cliched shot in the arm, lightning in a bottle, whatever you want to call it. They need something more great. Obviously, McLean looks great. If they have two great ones in there, maybe one of Senga or Manaea starts pitching better. Peterson's been very, very good. And then they have a good rotation to go along with what should be a good bullpen. Hasn't been lately, but what should be a good bullpen and a dynamic lineup. And it will be that. Certainly, as you mentioned, Vientos looks great. He can carry a team, as we saw in October last year. Beatty looks much better. McNeil looks pretty good. And obviously, they got the core four, the new core four stars. So that lineup should be dynamic. The pitching needs to be better. And the most obvious way to make it better is to bring up the guy with a 1.4 ERA, who's now at the AAA level, 0.00 ERA at AAA. So, I mean, I can't imagine that they don't do that.
Yeah, if you want it exact, 143 ERA this season between double and triple A. You mentioned the strikeouts, 179 and 113 and two-thirds innings. And by the way, a 148 batting average against at those two levels. And maybe Vientos is the guy who, if you're a Yankee fan or the Yankees, you have hope on, like Volpe, right? Is like if you think a player's talented, eventually maybe they break through and break out. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about with the Mets, especially on the Sproat, Tong, McLean level. John and I will get to it all with David Stearns, who's our guest next on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. John and I are so happy to be joined today by David Stearns, second year running Mets baseball operations. And also, when I asked David to join us, the Mets were not in a good period last week. They're in a better situation today. So, David, we always appreciate you jumping on and joining us on the show.
Appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
David, why don't I, like jump into it? There seems to be an issue that you're kind of like dealing with right now. Obviously, fans are interested, reporters are interested. I try not to ask like multi-pronged question, but why aren't Jonah Tong and Brandon Sproat here? And what would it take to get one or the other here? What do you have to see from either your current club need or their abilities to get them here?
Yeah, look, clearly we haven't gotten the length from our starters as a whole that we would like, and we certainly recognize that. I think for part of the year that narrative was actually overblown, but recently it hasn't been. I think when our starters were giving us 5 innings pretty consistently in this day and age, with the way bullpens are constructed, with the way we manage our bullpen pretty actively from a roster perspective, that's actually highly functional. If we're getting 5 good innings a night or averaging 5 good innings a night, and we can turn over a bullpen, we had a lot of success with that early in the year. More recently, I think the narrative has actually been accurate, where we haven't gotten enough length, and when there is too often cases where Mendy has to go and get a starter without completing 5. If that happens too often, it does begin to tax your bullpen. It creates really challenging situations to manage through the game. Uh, I think everyone would like to do better there, including our starting pitchers, and we're certainly aware of it. So we're continuing to evaluate it, and I would call this situation fluid. I think we're taking everything turn by turn at this point in terms of what our starting rotation looks like. We are aware that we need to be better in this spot. There's no question. I think we have seen signs of getting better over the last couple turns to the rotation. Other than one hiccup, David Peterson has given us length. Clay Holmes last time gave us length and has been better of late. And I think he's made some adjustments that are going to allow him to be better going forward. Clearly, Nolan McLean has come up and given us some quality starts. And then Kodai and Sean have been a little inconsistent. And we probably need to see a little bit more consistency there in terms of at least getting us through 5. If we can count on getting through 5 most times, we've got a roster construction that can handle that. And certainly Mendy is very adept at managing the back half of games. But we got to get there. And I think it is a fair critique that we haven't done that consistently enough, particularly over the last month.
Well, the pitching was very up and then now down at the major league level. At the minor league level, it's been spectacular. The guys whoever's developing these guys is doing a great job down there. McLean was doing great, and he was called up. But Tong is doing the best of anybody in the minor leagues, not only on your team, on any team. He's got 179 strikeouts in 113 innings. I mean, what are the chances we are going to see him this year and pretty soon?
Look, I'm not going to rule anything out. We haven't made any firm decisions yet on what our rotation looks like going forward, what starting pitchers could be involved in that, what pitchers could go to the bullpen. As I said, we're going to take this turn by turn. We do have guys with track records in our rotation, and I do think that is important for us to note. But we need to do it, and certainly over the last month, we haven't gotten the consistent, I'd say, quantity out of our starters that we would like.
David, you've mentioned rotation a few times, but Sproat went to the bullpen in his last time around. It didn't go very well, at least statistically. I don't know if the underlying stuff was any different. You could tell us. At some point, when you're in a race to get in and then a race, in the postseason, where this becomes some level of tournament baseball, could part of this decision with Tong and or Sproat be simply we starting September 1st, are they one or two of our 14 best pitchers? Should they be here to help us in some form, whether it's that a starter or something else, or does it disrupt development too much?
Yeah, so I think that's a very fair question. Starting with the Sproat situation, that was not a shift to the bullpen, and I think it may have gotten misinterpreted too much. If you look at how we've handled our AAA starters throughout the year, periodically we do ask them to pitch in back of an opener because that is something that at times we do in the big leagues. We did it with Tidwell when he was up earlier. And also just we never know what role we're going to need someone in. And so having these starters with the experience of not running out onto the field with their team at the first inning. There's some value to that. So this was pre-scheduled for Brandon. I know it made a lot of noise, but this had been coming. He was going to pitch behind an opener because it was his turn to do it. To your second part of your question, once you get into these latter stages of the year in September, certainly into the playoffs, how do you structure a staff? And yeah, the priority is who are our 14 best pitchers, and how do we structure a major league pitching staff that allows us to get outs at all parts of the game. And so at previous points in my career, we have used top starter prospects out of the pen. It's at times worked pretty well, not necessarily committing to doing that here, but we'd be foolish not to consider it.
I'm going to transition to a little bit bigger picture now, and I guess it's a positive in a sense that I think this year, at this point, at this stage, I know the story hasn't been written yet, but at this stage, I think a lot of the fans, a lot of us looking at it, look at the results as slightly disappointing. It's probably a positive that you're in a playoff position in your second year, and it's looked at as slightly disappointing. I think that's partly because it was such a great finish to last year and such a fantastic start to this year. Do you look at it that way? If not, how do you look at things as we're more than 3/4 of the way through the season, but not completed yet?
Yeah, I try not to get too caught up with qualifying seasons until we're done with the season. I think generally seasons are remembered for how they finish. And that goes both ways. That could be you've had a great first 80% of a regular season and the last 20% don't go so great. And that's how it's remembered. Or you've had an up and down first 80%, and the last 20% goes really well, and that's how it's remembered. So, well, it says we've been inconsistent. There's no question we've been inconsistent this year. There have been times where we have absolutely played like the best team in baseball, and there have been times where we have not played up to our capabilities. And so the end result of that is where we are. Don't think we've necessarily been, I don't think our current place in the standings is a product of fortune or misfortune. I think this is pretty much how we've played, and we've earned our record. And now we've got the home stretch here to try to do better, get into the playoffs, and then go on a run. And I think this team is certainly capable of that.
Just if I could, I straddle what we were talking about before. I realize that each starting pitcher, prospect and player, probably, certainly pitchers, are like fingerprints. They're separate and distinct. But does McLean's quick success influence and beyond everything else, where it seems he's brought a little energy to your ball club, if you believe in such things? Does that influence you at all with Tong and or Sproat?
I think we have to look at these as very individual circumstances. Every player progresses through their development at their own pace for particular reasons. And so I think the same would be true had Nolan come up and scuffled through his first two starts. We wouldn't be looking at the Tong or Sproat decisions any differently, or any other prospect decision any differently, if that's the way this had gone. And so we need to stay consistent with that. And we thought, for a variety of reasons, it was the right time for Nolan to come here. He's done a tremendous job, exceeded my expectations. I think it's really difficult to do what he's done first two starts at the major league level. Go back, look at a lot of really, really good pitching prospects, guys who turned out to have great major league careers. Most of them do not have a start to their major league career like Nolan has had. It's been a huge benefit to us, and yeah, it has absolutely added energy to our team, created a little bit of momentum among the pitchers and some competition. That's a great thing.
I was there last night and saw Alvarez take batting practice, and he's already going to be heading out on a rehab assignment. I mean, maybe he's tougher than I am, but it sounded like a bad injury. Do you feel pretty good about his chances? I know you can't really put a percentage on it right now unless you want to, but he's going on rehab. Are we probably going to see this guy at some point this year at the major league level?
I think so. This has gone about as well as it could have gone post injury. The swelling and inflammation calmed down pretty quickly. He started to regain strength in his thumb pretty quickly. We were able to get him a splint, a custom-made splint. Our medical staff did a tremendous job of fitting him for a splint that seems to work pretty well, that he's able to hit with. So, to this point, post-injury, it could not have gone better. But we haven't played a game yet, and that will be the test. And I will say I give Alvy a tremendous amount of credit for wanting to do this. This was not a clear-cut decision. This is very painful, and it would have been completely justifiable and reasonable for him to come to us and say, guys, like, I'm just going to get the surgery. I'll be ready to go next year. But he was insistent that if there was a way for him to continue to play this year, he wanted to do everything in his power to do that, and he deserves a lot of credit for that.
John mentioned before the downturn in your season. It was, at some point this year you were 45-24. You're 12 games under 500 since then, even after a good weekend in Atlanta and beating Philadelphia last night. You've mentioned the starting pitching, David. Is that the crux of this, or is there something else that has been kind of institutionally wrong or short in an area? And do you think it's fixable the rest of the way and into the postseason?
I think at various points during this stretch, it's been different parts of our team. And for our fans, I know that's been frustrating. At times for us, it's been frustrating, where there have been periods of this stretch where we just could not get a hit when we needed a hit, right? We could not get a hit at a leverage moment in the game. And our starting pitching was actually doing a pretty nice job. And there have been stretches where starting pitching did a nice job. We got some hits, and then we couldn't get the ball to the finish line. We couldn't get 27 outs. And sometimes that was because our relievers had a bad night. Sometimes that's because we weren't converting plays on defense. And certainly more recently, there have been times where we're just not getting deep enough into games with our starters. So one of the strange elements of this season, and I do think the reason why we have been inconsistent, is it hasn't been exclusively one part of the team. At various points, each part of our team has played at a high level, and at various points, each part of our team has struggled. And so now it's our responsibility and our goal to get these groups going at the same time, hopefully at the right time, have a really good September and carry that into October.
A good job keeping Beatty and Vientos and not accepting any offers on trades for them. Both are performing superbly lately. Beatty looks like he could be a starting third baseman at the major league level going forward, and Vientos can carry a team, so he could be a DH. I don't know. How do you see their futures together? They've been very good together. They accept the competition and handled it really professionally. But what do you see in their future as Mets?
Yeah, they're good major league players, and I think they've both proven that now. Mark had a very high-end year last year, struggled clearly for the first half of this season, and has turned it on now. And Brett has just incrementally gotten a little bit better on both sides of the ball at the major league level. And I don't want to discount his defense. I think what he's done over the last 2 years and the work he's put in to make himself an above average defensive third baseman and now probably an average defensive second baseman is really impressive, to the point where, I think if he needed to stand at shortstop for the back half of a game at some point because of injuries or something crazy happens, we believe he can do that too. So these two guys have, I think, carved out very nice roles for themselves at the major league level. We expect both of them to be part of our future. And the positional versatility that Brett has added to his game makes a lot of that possible and helps us fit the puzzle together.
David, it leads to something, a bigger question that I've been thinking a lot about. I think one of the things you pride yourself on, and I think that Steve Cohen saw when he hired you, was your ability. You are a New Yorker, but to block out what John and I think, what the fans think, and try to do what you think is right. And I'm sure there were like a lot of noise around you, like wave Vientos, send Beatty back to the minor leagues, stuff like that. Is it different in or tougher in New York than say Milwaukee? And if so, like what do you do to withstand the barrage where the passion and voice is so loud?
I thought it was going to be more different. The
Did you
press
just go John
conferences
and me
are
soft?
I'm
I'll go
definitely
hard. I'll
not.
go harder if we are.
We're getting old. We are softer, Joe.
You guys are not soft.
We got old.
The press conferences are bigger. There are more questions. I probably devote a greater portion of my time to things like this and to discussing with the media. But in terms of what I feel and how I handle things, like I have always just sort of structured my life to not be a part of this stuff. And so I'm not on social media. I don't listen to talk radio. And so a lot of this doesn't get to me. I think when I need to know something, we've got a really skilled media relations and communications group that makes sure I know what's being discussed, and they will very diplomatically let me know if I'm getting crushed on a particular issue, so that I'm aware of it. But I always come back to like what our fans want, and I think frankly what most of the media wants is for us to win, and that's what I want too. And I don't necessarily think it's in my best interest, the fans' best interest, or the media's best interest if I start letting my opinions, my perspectives get swayed by external voices that may not have all the information that I have, or that may not have the perspective that I have. And if what we all want, speaking for myself and the fans, like if what we all want is to win, and that is what we all want, ultimately I have to trust my best judgment and the best information that I think is going to get us to winning. And at the end of the day, if I'm right on that, the fans are going to be happy. And if I'm wrong on that, they're not going to be happy, and they deserve to have their voices heard and complain, and all that is very justifiable.
You're smart not to be on social media. I wish I wasn't on social media. Juan Soto. Now, looking at his stats, I mean, I saw one stat where he was the only guy in the majors with 30 homers and 20 steals. He's on pace for 40 home runs. He's over 100 walks already, the second Met ever. So it looks statistically like a good year, but the perception due to the contract, which is a record contract, is that he's not having his usual year. He doesn't have a 950 OPS. He hasn't done what he did with the Yankees last year, when he was always hitting in the clutch, particularly in the playoffs. Now, we haven't gotten the playoffs yet, but obviously those numbers are down. He has not, his numbers in the clutch are not Soto-like at all. How would you assess his first year in New York? Do you think there's been a little bit of an adjustment period, particularly in the clubhouse, or what what would you say about Juan Soto's first year as a New York Met?
He's had a really good year. I don't know what else to say. This guy's been really, really good. And he's demonstrated a continued desire to improve. He may steal 30 bases this year. There is a reasonable chance that he's going to be a 30-30 player, maybe a 40-30 player. Certainly, that's not what I expected when we signed him. But he seems to target elements of his game that, in his mind, are not up to his standards, and he works to improve on them. He probably got off to a little bit of a slower start than everyone was anticipating. Certainly a slower start than he got off to last year across town. And maybe that's still in people's minds a little bit, and that's clouding the perception of the year as a whole. But this has been a really, really good year, an elite level year. And yeah, he's helped us win games. I think he's going to help us win more games, and we're thrilled with what he's provided.
David, you did stuff at the trade deadline, 3 relievers, a center fielder. Why didn't you go bigger? Could you have gone bigger? Why didn't you?
Yeah, it's about first of all what's available, and I guess there was some bigger stuff available. There were players with more control available, and we were involved in a number of those conversations. And ultimately, the price for those players can get really, really steep. Including players who are presently helping us win games at the major league level, and other players who I think are probably going to help us win games at the major league level either later this year or next year. So we're not talking about prospects in low A necessarily. We're talking about elite prospects who we think are near-term major league contributors. And I just made the decision that those prices were too steep. And so we ultimately had areas of our team we wanted to address. Felt like it was important we addressed those areas of the team in certain cases in very aggressive ways. And we were able to do that. And look, I recognize to this point, wherever August 26th, we've had some mixed results with some of those acquisitions, but I'm also pretty confident that we acquired really good players. And over the next month and a half and into October, we're going to see some really good performances out of those guys.
Pete Alonso, the perception, at least, and probably my perception as well, was that Steve Cohen really wanted him back, and that it's kind of slugging type first baseman isn't really your favorite kind of a player. Not anything personal on Pete, but that Steve Cohen was really the one who made sure that Pete was back. Pete is having a better year this year than he did have last year. He did not have a great year last year by his standards. And you've always said publicly that you're thrilled that he's back, and that has turned out correct, that he's certainly helped the team this year. What are your thoughts going forward? Because he is very likely a free agent, as he does have an opt-out. Would you like to have him back? Do you think there's a good chance that the Mets could bring him back? I mean, last year it didn't feel that way at times, but you did do it. You and Steve both did it together. What are your thoughts overall on Pete?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the game of speculating what an off season looks like when we're still in the middle of a season. What I'll say is I love Pete. Like him as a Met, like him as a person. He's a great guy in the clubhouse. I know what he means to our fan base. He's performed here. I'm thrilled we have him, and we'll go from there. But he's having a really good year, and right now I'm focused on doing everything we can as an organization to continue to support him, to allow him to continue to have a really good year, and have some of the big moment type performances that he demonstrated that he can have last year.
David, you had a philosophy on starting pitching that really worked in 2024, that hasn't worked as well this year. But one of the things I always point out is like, the guys who were at the top of the market this year. Corbin Burns had Tommy John surgery. Blake Snell missed 4 months. Max Fried has taken a real downturn. But I wonder, has anything happened this year to dissuade you about how you think about it? Or does it encourage you? Like, you just don't know, and I'd rather not, especially on over 30s, take the long-term gamble. And this has kind of reinforced my philosophy.
Yeah, I think sort of this philosophy maybe has been slightly overblown. I don't have like this hard and fast rule that above a certain age, we're not going to invest above a certain number of years in a starting pitcher. These are very individual considerations. As you guys know, we have offered enormous contracts to starting pitchers during my time here, and they ultimately chose to sign elsewhere, and that's fine. Um, we also know that, as you just stated, Joel, the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of those types of contracts don't really turn out particularly well. Um, there are some that do, and trust me, we are going to be and will continue to be on the hunt for attributes and for players who hold those attributes that we think will allow them to turn out well. And when we find those, we're going to be aggressive. Um, Long term, ultimately, what we need to do is develop our starting pitching. And I think we're doing that right now. I'm confident in our development apparatus as a whole. I think we're doing a good job there. And so long term, the way you get out of this cycle of um, making difficult bets on in free agency is you develop your own starters repeatedly, and I believe we are going to be able to do that.
Carlos Mendoza, I think by and large he's done a very good job. Obviously, last year was fantastic. As I've stated, I think this year was, at least perceived by me and some others, is a little bit disappointing to this point. He doesn't have a long deal. He does have another guaranteed year. How do you feel like Mendoza is doing? And could you say that he is safe to be back for next year?
Oh yeah, Mendy's doing a great job. He and I have a very good relationship. I think he's the right person for this job. I think he's demonstrated that from day one. I really enjoy working with him, and so absolutely, Mendy. Mendy's a very talented, skilled manager. He's a very good communicator, and I've enjoyed my time with him.
David, as a way to wrap up, we certainly have talked a lot about your potentially young starting pitching coming through, some of it already obviously coming through in Nolan McLean. Uh, Carson Bench has kind of blown up this year. Jet Williams stayed healthy. I wonder if you could talk about some of the other stuff towards the top of your farm system, and maybe I know these things don't have set ETAs, but what do you think moving forward for some of your positional guys in particular?
Yeah, look, those are two that you named, two elite position player prospects at the top level of our system. Both have taken pretty significant steps forward in their development. Both are valued very highly in the industry, clearly, and so it's not just our internal evaluations of them that speak to that. So it's great to see. ETAs, I don't really know. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't both be contributing to our team at some point next year. That when you get to AAA, you're a phone call away. Both of them, to this point, are performing in AAA. Clearly, it's a short sample and a small amount of time. So probably want to see that for a little while longer. But these guys have both done everything you could ask for in their development. They're both the types of players that we get excited about, players that can impact the game in all aspects of the game: offense, defense, base running. These are good athletes. They play the game hard. They're exciting players, and that they're now step away from the big leagues is great. We always talk about the combination of opportunity plus where the player is at their development. And so all they can focus on is continuing their developmental path to get to the point so that when the opportunity does present themselves, we are confident they're ready for it.
David, I do want to emphasize one more time. I know you poo-pooed it a little at the top, but we do get our own guest every week. And most times when a team isn't going well, an executive isn't easy to procure and get to join us on the show. And you guys weren't going well when I asked you last week to do this. So John and I, we do appreciate you. There was a lot of, we obviously covered a lot of ground here. There was a lot of stuff that we thought the fans would be interested in. It's why we reached out to you at this time, and we do appreciate you joining us on the show.
My pleasure, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Glad we won a couple games over the last few days, and hopefully we can keep that going.
Thanks
We'll
again.
try to get tougher. We're going to try to get tougher.
Yeah,
We got to be tougher than Milwaukee.
You guys are plenty tough.
I'll be out
You guys
there.
are, which is why I try to tune it out.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, guys.
John and I, of course, thank David Stearns for joining us on the show. John, hit or error?
I'm going to give an error to us, not you and me specifically, but to the Baseball Writers Association for adding the Relief Award, which is the most unnecessary award ever. We now have 4 player awards that can potentially go to a relief pitcher, a guy who throws potentially 3 pitches in a game, not likely, but sometimes 10 pitches in a game. Makes no sense. A great position player, whether it be Aaron Judge or whomever, only can get 2 awards, but the relievers now can get 4 awards. No need to give more awards to relievers. So I'm not sure why we did it. Of course, I missed the meeting. I missed almost every meeting. I missed meetings everywhere. It went past me. I just saw the announcement and I said, what the heck is this? And I asked you, and I know you agree. It doesn't make any sense that we're over awarding a relief pitcher. It's like a participation trophy or something. I don't know. Why are we awarding them something?
Yeah, I didn't see the final. Did you vote, John? I voted against it.
No,
maybe it won by 1 vote, and your vote would have counted.
I missed that.
You missed that.
Did we get an email
I voted.
on that? I don't know.
You should have gotten multiple emails about it.
I'm not good on email. You know that. You got to text me. Anybody want to reach out to me, you'll learn this. You got to text me. Email, it's too many. I can't go through them all.
Yes. Well, anyway, John, I'm in 100% agreement. The BBWA has a storied history with 4 awards that are totally tied to us. Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year, and of course, Cy Young and MVP. To water those down when there's already awards named for 2 Hall of Fame relievers, Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman, and potentially give awards to people. I mean, relievers have won the Cy Young. Like, if you have a good enough year, like generally you're a reliever because you're not good enough to be a starter. So now we're going to be you're not good enough to be the starter award goes to, I don't know why we.
Yeah, it's completely idiotic. Who voted for this?
Yes.
Well, the majority voted for this.
Your brethren, John, not including me and not including a lot of people. I know a lot of people thought this was the wrong thing to do, but I think if you saw who voted for these things, you might be appalled. Anyway, John, I'm going to just quickly give a hit to a reliever. Strangely enough, I wrote about this again in my online column. Aroldis Chapman's having the best year of his career, arguably. And I think he's beginning to build a little bit of a Hall of Fame case. Him, Kimbrel, and Jansen all came up in 2010 about the same time. They're all pitching this year at 37. Obviously, Kimbrel's appeared in 2 games, one for the Braves, one for the Astros. He's kind of fallen off. His postseason numbers are just so bad. His big game stuff is bad. But Kimbrel, Chapman, Jansen have very similar numbers. And I think Chapman is starting with this late career thing. He's a lot like Billy Wagner. He's got about 100 fewer innings than Wagner, and I was not a Wagner voter for the Hall of Fame. But if Wagner's in, he's the power lefty. If you go look at against league average stuff, he stands with Wagner. And he's better than him in a lot of stuff, but I'll give Wagner the thing, strikeouts weren't as prevalent. when Wagner was pitching. But against league average, Chapman is as good at, like ERA plus Wagner's like second best to Rivera. Chapman's top five. He's number one in strikeout percentage. Like he's pretty great career. And I will say this, he's given up some of the biggest home runs in the history of the postseason. Um, Altuve to end an ALCS. Mike Brousseau ended, eliminated the Yankees. Obviously, Rajay Davis in the World Series, but he's got like a 2.4 postseason ERA in about 50 games. And the 2016 Cubs who traded for him and the 2023 Rangers who traded for him don't win the World Series without him. He was like the last reliever both teams trusted in those years, and so he turned it out to be a championship, big cog for championships. I'm not sure he's there yet. I don't think he's there because again, I didn't vote for Wagner. Like me and you have stricter things I think about relievers and relief awards and things like that. But if Wagner's in, I think that Chapman is building a Billy Wagner case.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a great career. Those are great arguments. Yeah, he's not a Hall of Famer for me. I can't see him being a Hall of Fame. He's having a great year. I mean, really is. And I mean, his command of his pitches is otherworldly,
Amazing.
well beyond. I mean, he used to throw 100, 405. He's still throwing 100 or slightly over on occasion. But the command is just improved incredibly. And I don't know, he hadn't given up a hit for a month at one point. I don't know what he did last night, but it's an amazing year. He's had a great career. I'm with you on the Hall of Fame. I didn't see Billy Wagner as a Hall of Famer. To me, if you're a reliever, you've got to either have incredible bulk, like Trevor Hoffman had, or be great in the big moments. And Chapman's been pretty good, but not great. So I don't see him as a Hall of Famer, but he has had a great career. Again, we're over awarding all these relievers to
I
me. You're
agree
a
with you.
reliever if you can't start, right? So, but he is great at it. I grant you that. I think the Red Sox might even give him a 2-year deal to keep him. They love him so much, but to me, not quite there. And we're not going to relitigate the Wagner case. He's in. He was very emotional about it. Everybody loved
Good
it.
for
We're
him. Yeah.
villains.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't want to go over why we're villains here, but
Yeah.
again, we're not. We're a little tougher on relievers than most are. If any of those three guys is a Hall of Famer, to me, it's Jansen because Jansen's been great in the postseason. He's got a 2.2 ERA in the postseason. He's been more consistent than the others. He's gonna get to over 500 saves as well. So if you want to pick one of them, I would go with Jansen, whose career is going to be somewhat like Trevor Hoffman's, who got in with 600 saves. The bulk to me, that got me. I got there with the bulk, but other than that, I'm a little tougher on relievers than most. I think most people are wrong, but
Yeah, we're never tough on Tommy Hogan, our producer, who helps us so much each week. Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to a podcast, please rate and review us. Please rate and review us. You help the podcast. If you like the podcast, be a supporter of the podcast. You could also do that by going to the New York Post Sports YouTube page. Give us a view. Both Tommy and I really like John's shirt today. You could give a look at why and see if you agree or not. Thumbs up from John on his own shirt. I agree. And look, we're all just by the time we do another show, I think it's September. Will we be in September by the time we do another show? I think so. Yeah, math. I'm bad at it.
yes.
Yes. So obviously we're in the stretch run. We hope hope we keep getting great guests, and we hope you continue to listen to us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman.